A group of medical researchers have set themselves a real mountain to climb with their latest project. In fact, they're taking their new studies to new heights, the top of Mount Everest to be precise. Sky's Emma BIRCHLEY has the story.
Drive those legs, drive the legs. Well done, David.
Pushed to the point of exhaustion, this test is tough enough in a London laboratory. Imagine how hard it'll be at 8,000 metres, where there's so little oxygen it's a struggle to breathe.
The reason we're doing this study is because we want to find out more about how humans adapt to hypoxia, which is the technical name for low oxygen levels, and in particular because on intensive care, virtually all the patients have problems with hypoxia in their cells. The problem with intensive care is it's very difficult to study patients because they're such a mixed group.
Each of the 260 volunteers and 50 doctors who signed up must first have everything from oxygen uptake to heart rate and lung function monitored. For the next 2 months, tests will be carried out here in the laboratory, but it's in March that the real challenge begins, when the teams brave the extreme conditions of Everest. Sky News correspondent Gerard Tubb knows exactly how tough it can be. Last May, he joined a group of army explorers as they headed up the world's highest mountain.
Well, just clambering around here at 18,000 feet on this glacier brings it home how difficult it's going to be for this team at 29,000 feet at the top of Everest behind me.
The medical tests on the volunteers will be repeated at 4 different stages of their journey to base camp. Among them will be billionaire businessman John Caudwell. At first he signed up for the challenge, but has since decided to donate £500,000 to the study.
Wherever I find something that's a really worthy cause, then I'm very willing to support it. And I think also that then acts as a catalyst for other wealthy people to start doing similar things.
10 doctors hope to reach the summit where blood will be taken from their arteries, the first time ever at such altitude. Never before has a study on this scale been attempted. 20,000 tonnes of kit is needed. But the results could be the key to saving countless lives.
There will be a medical experiment on the roof of the world. British scientists today started preliminary tests on a team of more than 200 volunteers who are going to climb Mount Everest this spring. As they go up, they will be monitored to see how human beings cope with low oxygen levels at high altitudes. The medical team from University College London believe this will help them treat people in intensive care, where low oxygen levels are critical. Our science correspondent Julian Rush has this.
Drive those legs, drive the legs. Well done. Keep driving those legs. 10 more seconds. You're nearly at 40, keep going if you can. Okay, that's fine, stop there. Just relax.
Now do that again, but here, 5,000 metres up at base camp on Everest. In March, that's just what he'll be doing, along with 200 other volunteers.
It simply gets harder because you have much less oxygen. So the length of time that you can go is much less, and you reach that point where your muscles aren't able to utilise oxygen, and so you reach that point faster, basically. So you get tired more quickly, so the test doesn't last so long.
The volunteers will be subject to a battery of tests. Not just blood samples, there'll be neuropsychological tests too. Their heart rates will be monitored, as will the oxygen levels in their muscles and their brains. Because this is all about measuring how they adapt to the reduced oxygen levels in the atmosphere as they climb the mountain. It's research they hope will eventually benefit the critically ill in hospital, where oxygen depletion is a big problem.
The volunteers will undergo tests like this 5 times as they trek from sea level to base camp at over 5,000 metres. But it won't necessarily be the fittest that do best. One of the expedition's main aims is to confirm that some people have a gene that makes them cope better at altitude where there's less oxygen. And it's the same gene, they think, that affects survival in intensive care.
We have this conundrum on intensive care that it's very difficult to predict who's going to thrive and survive and who's going to really struggle when they're critically ill. And you see exactly the same at altitude. The reason that's very important in intensive care is that we spend quite a lot of time giving treatments to get more oxygen to the cells. So we give drugs to make the heart beat faster, we use mechanical ventilation to get oxygen in. And we know that they themselves cause harm. So they can damage the heart, for example, the drugs, and ventilation, although it's essential to keep people alive, can also cause some damage to the lungs. So the less of those things that we can do, the better.
Last year, the team tested their equipment in the Alps. The geneticists among them will be focusing on the ACE gene. ACE inhibitor drugs are commonly used to treat heart patients. Originally, ACE was thought just to control blood pressure, but it turns out it does much more than that.
The first hint at that was in treating people with ACE inhibitors. These are drugs used in treating heart failure or low blood pressure. They seem to have magical properties in saving lives for reasons we didn't really understand. We now think part of that life-saving property might be because it regulates the efficiency with which you burn oxygen, and that's what this work is all about.
And just how important the ACE gene is, it came from experiments on Mont Blanc.
And we looked at people just before they went off to try for the summit, and we took some DNA, and then when they came back down to us, we said, did you get to the top or not? And what we found was the favourable version of the gene, everybody got to the top, and the unfavourable versions, a large number did not.
If these results confirm the theory, then DNA tests for intensive care patients may one day become routine, just to see how well they'll do, with ACE inhibitor drugs prescribed to improve their chances. One of the earliest volunteers for the expedition, the billionaire businessman John Caudwell, was so impressed by the project he decided to fund it, to the tune of £500,000.
It's the twofold fact. The fact that, first of all, it's a challenge for me personally going up to base camp of Everest and exploring the medical effects on my body. But then coupled with that, the fact that it may well result in developments that will save lives in intensive care. And it'll be one of the legacies I'll leave behind, you know, for many generations to come. And that's very exciting for me.
And the team plan a bid for the record books too. 10 medical mountaineers will climb Everest without oxygen and then take blood samples from each other at the summit.